Ms. Jarukornsakul, Chairman and Group CEO, WHA Corporation. Mr. Dhanawat Suthumpun, Managing Director, Microsoft-Thailand. Mr. Joerg Ayrle, Group Chief Financial Officer, Thai UnionGroup. And our moderator, Mr. Thapana Phanich, Head of Institutional Research, TISCO Securities. Please join me in welcoming our panelists and moderator.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very honored to be here today, to be your moderator for this session. We have a tremendous panelist of business leaders here. Appreciate you all being here. Thank you very much. So without further ado, let's get right into it. The COVID-19 epidemic is arguably the most disruptive event of the 21st century. Unlike previous crises, this epidemic has affected the lives of nearly every person on the planet. The IMF forecast that the cumulative economic loss from this crisis could amount to $12 trillion over a period of 2 years. That's equivalent to the annual GDP of half of the 195 countries on this planet. So the $12 trillion question is, what's next for businesses? How will Thai companies deal with issues like operations, customers, regulations, and investments in the post-COVID world? So the purpose of this panel is to hopefully get some sort of answer. So the way we'll tackle this is I'm going to kick off some of the topics on this statement, and then I'm going to throw it to the panelists, and then we can have some discussions around them. Okay? So the first one, first easy question. So we can all agree that COVID-19 has been highly disruptive to logistics, supply chain, and day-to-day operations. Companies must revamp their operations to be as resilient and as lean as possible. Yet, there could also be a silver lining to all this, and the epidemic may usher in a new industrial revolution that will completely change the ways that companies operate. So to kick off this discussion, I'll ask Joerg to maybe give some insight as to what TU has gone through during the epidemic and where we're going next in terms of changes to the operations and logistics. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and welcome everybody to this great panel with so many great friends. We've just come out of our earnings season. We've released our Q2 results, and I must say, many companies, I'm sure, are facing tremendous headwinds. Now for Thai Union, we had an amazing quarter. We had very strong demand for most of our products in the ambient seafood space, in consumer seafood and packaged seafood. In Europe, in the US, we had markets with tremendous growth during this period. Of course, some of it is panic buying and pantry loading. Most of it is increased consumption. So the first learning for us during this crisis is tremendously increased consumption for our core products, and that is, I think, a really, really good news. Of course, we see some businesses are more affected in the F&B industry. We have an investment in Red Lobster. We need to work with a team there to work through the problems, but all said and done, we had an amazing Q2, and our learning out of this is that focus on the core operations, focus on cash preservation, collecting money from your customer, managing your expenses, managing your cash flow, and have a renewed cash flow focus. That really helped us during these last couple of months.
So maybe Khun Jareeporn, maybe we can chime in on the change, the disruption that's been happening to the logistics industry and how that's affected your companies and what seen going forward.
Thanks. I think that before we discuss in detail only the logistic, I think that we need to think about what the most effect. May I have my presentation, please? Just only one page. Next. Okay, this one. This is the global event, the key event this year. COVID-19 is the one of that effect, right? But it's the most impact. But when we look at all these things, we have about the global economic slowdown, and also about the problems in many things about the politics in some country, and also the trade war, we think, right? Yes. So we need to think about what is the Thailand situation first. Before we think the crisis, we all say there's a crisis. I do business more than 20 years. I think it faces a lot of crises. I think that's I always say this. COVID-19 that's the one crisis that we need to pass, right? We need to think first for this crisis, or for about we talk a lot about the trade war, and what about the COVID-19? For the COVID-19, the good impact for Thailand is we talk a lot about the relocation from China to Southeast Asia. Do you think this is crisis or opportunities? I think it's opportunities and a lot of opportunities. And because of the UnionGroup, we contract a lot of foreigners. Also of us for the about industrial estate, 90% is foreigners. Mainly it's Japanese, Chinese, or Taiwanese or something, Europeans. And even though for logistic part, I think more than 60% is foreigners. Right? So the thing changed. I think that Thailand need to take these opportunities. Don't think it's only crisis. This is a lot of opportunities in that crisis. Even though for maybe what we talk later is about the technology, and also a lot of opportunity for the technology team. Also, if we look about this thing, and we need to, what about the Thai corporate truth moving? If we have this position, right, about this, for we talk about logistics. For the logistics have a good impact from COVID-19 because of e-commerce. I said that for this, I think that's 3 or 4 years ago, I mentioned that e-commerce was rising up in Thailand. And last year, for the e-commerce only, it's allowed 3.2 trillion Thai baht, or it's allowed 19.6% of GDP without any support from the government, right? And this year, I think it should be higher. And the big player, as you know, the big player also enter into Thai. And they would like to use Thailand as their logistics hub in this regional. I think there's a lot of opportunities. Also, that's why the WHA cooperation for the logistics part we increase a lot. So we know what's happened. And even though we talk about the industrial estate, since February this year, when we face about problems about the COVID-19, and also our client in the other in mainly invest in China, they said, "Wow, this another risk." So in not just only about the trade war, they said to relocate to outside from China to Southeast Asia, and this is the most interesting thing we need to discuss. But the most thing need to think about, what about the Thai corporate prepare their business? Since now you a lot of opportunity here, but that means you have a lot of competitors, right? You like a magnet, right? Attract about the foreigner, the big guys. I think that they need to think about you pay with the big guy, not only like the not common so competitors like this. Everything need to shrink. You need to think a lot about we talk about digital transformation. You need to think about the technology. For the WHA group, we talk this digital transformation more than 2 or 3 years ago. Since we think that this technology is changed, so we need to change us. No, otherwise you need to disrupt yourself. Because of the WHA group, we done like 4 business areas: logistics, industrial estate, utilities and power, digital platform. This is also very important for the infrastructure of the country. But we still need to move up to the technology. The first that I concern is technology disruption, not COVID disruption. Or you can look at the other page, the next page, next car. They show you the problems we have about the year 1998. We have the problems like minus 7.6% of the GDP, right? But next year, what happened? This year, I think the same. For the GDP this year, we dropped down a lot. But next year should be ramped up. So the thing we need to discuss, we need to think about how we can survive. Not only survive, how can we be the leaders with about the technology disruption, not COVID disruption. COVID is like another catalyst to ramp up, to increase about the technology like this.
Khun Dhanawat, what are you seeing from the Microsoft side in terms of the changes in the way the companies operate during the COVID-19, and also maybe how you're also how Microsoft itself is changing during this time?
Thank you very much, Kap. In fact, thanks very much everyone to having me here. So I'm so lucky to sit with all these two executives, and you can see that both of them has talking a lot about the headwind, the crisis, but also big opportunity that we also seeing after the COVID-19. So this is the same I would recommend that we also see this in all the company who get this chance to empower themselves, to be able to pause and to really reimagine that what is their core and how they can leverage their core, their value proposition to make an impact to the market. And technology definitely is unavoidable, that people could really leverage the technology to improve in all the processes and everything. We have seen a lot of tech trends and what happening after the COVID-19. One thing definitely, I believe that everyone will experience work from home. So this is during the crisis, almost we locked down, everybody working from home, everybody have to using the video conference and so on. That is also what I have seen is still continuing. And the reason it's continuing because the people see the benefit that they get from sort of leveraging the technology, not only in terms of better communication, sharing the information, but also the productivity gain. So even after the COVID, today we pretty much back to almost normal, put it that way, except that we still guarding the border of our country. But the thing is the hybrid workplace still being implemented. And the reason because most of the company, see the benefit that once they have the workplace analytics, the hybrid workplace, they can get more productivity from their people. They even get some sort of saving by, don't have to spend a lot with the building, facility, and stuff like that. But on the employee side, they also get the huge benefit as well because they'll be more flexible. They could work everywhere. They could work anytime. And also they could spend even more time with their family. So this is what we have seen, and after the survey that we have done with a lot of customers, I was saying that most of them, they plan to continue in this using the technology. And the survey that the employee has provided feedback, some of them don't want to go back to work at the office. They still want to continue working from home. So this is where we have seen that the tech is coming in to support those kind of the business requirement, to making sure that the business continuity is still there. And this is part of what we call, maybe overall, we call it remote everythings. And not only about the work from home, but the thing is in terms of, let's say, the retail industry. Pijun just touching on it. So now the retail industry, they are using a lot of online shopping, e-commerce. I'm sure that all of us will shop a lot during the COVID-19, I guess, especially Pijun. So I think this is where we see that we don't have to go to the shopping center. We can remotely do the online shopping. And this is also applied to the other industry as well in the remote everything category. Is like manufacturing. So now we have like a digital twin that we could, let's say, seeing the whole things, the sort of the equipment, the machine, is going to be up, down. So the digital twin also apply for the manufacturing industry side. We also seeing the remote everything, even in healthcare. So people could sort of, getting the telehealth, using Microsoft Teams, setting up the booking and stuff like that. So the remote everything will be the trend that we see that people will continue leverage this technology to support their business. The second tech trend that we have seen is on the hyper automation. So again, this is where it's not about leveraging a technology to automate the processes. But this is the time after the COVID-19 that people looking for the technology to rebuild the processes, to reimagine the processes. So this is where we see a lot of good use case and example in all the industry as well. definitely accelerating digital. You can see the project that used to talk about years now become months. We are talking about months become day. So I'm sure that Pijun and Joerg won the technology project finished yesterday, right? So this is where we're seeing that the digital adoption or accelerating is so fast right now, right? And also the virtual century. So now we are in the sort of the real world. We also in the digital world. So how we can making sure that we leverage this hybrid experience to support the customer, to let them have the best customer experience with us. And the 2 points that I like to make here before I close off is on the security and privacy. This is also very important. One, you see a huge opportunity in digital and you leverage a lot of technology, either in the remote everything, hyper automation, accelerating digital, virtual century. But don't forget that on the bad side, they also have the same or even advanced technology to attack you. So you also need to making sure that in the digital world, you need to prepare for that. I get a lot of call from the customer, getting a malware ransom, getting attacked by the cyber and so on. This is where we also need to making sure that we put the focus, we put the right investment in the security and privacy as well. Last but not least is on the business model revamp. So when I'm saying this, because we seeing that a lot of customers start to sort of reimagine and rethink that what is the new segment or the new market or the new services or new product that they could provide to the market. Having a lot of data that could also help them to see that how they can revamp their business model. Maybe this task or this work no need to do by ourselves. This part could have done by the customer, and they like to do that because they own it, they feel it. But it also reduce cost to us. It also improve the speed to us. So the business model revamp is something that is so important, right? So this is just, just to give you the context that what we have seen after the COVID-19, people see a lot of opportunity for them to reimagine, leveraging the technology to achieve all this stuff.
I would actually like to pick on something you said before, and it just triggered a thought. The whole notion of things becoming quicker. The time horizon that you're looking at becomes much, much shorter. And during this crisis, we can all see that. Decision cycles become quicker. You want your response faster. You don't look at the next monthly report, the next quarterly report. No, I want to see the Friday's report. No, actually, I want to see today's report. So the whole notion of much faster decision cycle, stronger agility, responsiveness to what is happening around us, you're absolutely correct. That has really, this COVID crisis has really triggered this transformation of speed.
Right, and also our clients also now talk a lot about the technology right now. See right now, Thailand faces a COVID-19, something like this, for the engineering, for the judicial, cannot come in, right? So yesterday I just had the dinner with about the Japanese ambassador and the big corporates from Japan, something like this. One guy is about technical, cannot come to, it's better to 3 or 4 months something. So now you talk about, how can we do about the virtual reality? Or something. So about I think it's time for technology. It's like a shorten the period. Maybe this next or 2 or 3 years. We do it right now or yesterday.
I think this is all a very good point, and I'm glad to hear the evidence from both executives here. So now a lot of technology like AI even help in terms of predict, not only looking from the report in the past, but we could use AI to predict what's happening, or even using the AI to help forecast the customer demand or improve the customer experience. So I think we are very aligned on this point. Maybe I pass on to Kun Thapana.
Yeah, thank you, Dhanawat. I think you triggered off some very interesting discussion points, especially the cybersecurity. We'll circle around to that in a bit. But maybe I just wanted to go back to Joerg, just about the aspect of technology and what that's done for your operation, because you've done pretty well in terms of keeping costs down in Q2, as far as I understand. But how has technology specifically has helped you during the past quarter? I understand travel expense reduction has been one of them, but maybe you can shed light on something on other aspects.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the first question was sometime end of March, when people said, so now we want to work from home. We don't want to come to the office. We do not want to go on the BTS because that's unsafe. So we want to work from home. And then you have hundreds of people who work in workplaces that are not designed for working from home. People don't have a computer infrastructure, or they don't have a good Wi-Fi connection at home, or they may not even have a computer that can run this particular SAP or whatever other application has. So the first move was, how do we equip our workforce technologically to work from home as efficient as they work from the office? The second part was, how do we get our head around all this manual paper processing? In the end, we're still in Thailand. A lot goes through paper, and I want to see an original signature, and I want to see the original paper that someone submits to a bank or to an official. And with rapid speed, people changed their requirements. Banks were able to accept electronic signatures. We were able to implement a delegation of authorities to people who otherwise would not be allowed to sign something. Suddenly they were allowed to sign something electronically. So first, equipping the people with the technology they need to work from home in an electronic, digital environment. Second, we saw a lot of processes being changed with authorities, with people who a year ago would have told me, this is impossible. You can never change this here in Thailand. It changed in days. And it stays like that, and everyone likes it and say, oh, this is great, this makes my life easier. So you see a real workplace dynamic happening. And I think last but not least, the whole topic around supply chain transparency, supply chain traceability, we had started many years ago in the context of sustainability and knowing where does seafood come from. So we had started very long time ago to really know who's your supplier, who's the supplier of the supplier, and who's his supplier, and who works for that supplier. So we had an advantage, but we realized that during this crisis it actually helped us because you can ensure where does the product come from, does he have COVID protective measures, and you actually have a much more resilient supply chain. And a lot of this is, again, digital transformation. How did you tie back to your suppliers, to your customers in an end-to-end supply chain? So I think there was a lot of real move into the digital world, and it helped us gain productivity, reduce cost, and again, be quicker.
And maybe just to follow up a little bit on that, and I agree that this has been more of a technological revolution more than a COVID-19 crisis, which is kind of a black swan event that triggered technological revolution. And it's brought about a lot of efficiencies, not just in regulatory, but also in the way companies operate. So then, you know, this also leads on to another question. What does that mean for the workforce? Because people are now more efficient, they can do things quicker, technology facilitates everything. Does that mean that in Thailand, we have to rethink about the labor, the employment, the how much labor pool does a company need? Or, you know, is everything, do we still keep everything the same? What are your thoughts on that?
Look, upskilling is a must. I think if you see this transformation, you need to look at how do I educate the workforce, how do I educate younger people, students, first of all, to be fluent in English, to be fluent with digital media, to be able to adapt and learn on a constant basis. So I think upskilling, becoming adaptable to change becomes extremely important. And for those who do not want to go along this journey, I guess it will be very hard to remain competitive.
Khun Dhanawat, does Microsoft offer training program for all the companies?
Yeah, in fact, this is a big agenda. We also have done a survey in Microsoft as well. So let me share from the Thailand perspective that we have seen. The survey after the COVID-19 that we have working and getting the information back. One of the big problem for after the COVID-19 for Thailand is people losing job. So there will be a high unemployment in the country. And with that survey, we are looking at like 5 key segments that's going to be quite a huge impact. One is on the student who going to graduate from university. So what have seen in the survey is only about 2/3 of that will get the job. 1/3 won't be able to get a job. That is where we see sort of the impact. The second is on the informal worker. When we say informal worker, is the people who come to work as the a daily wage, like 300 baht per day. That is the informal worker in category. So that also we see that a huge impact for them. Also the migrant employee. So the people who travel from outside the city to the city. So that also get the impact. So I don't want to go all through this, but it's a key challenge for the country right now to see that how we can resolve the unemployment that we are expecting gonna go high after the COVID-19. So this come to, I totally agree with Khun Joerg that upskilling, reskilling is very important. The reason I'm saying this because when you're looking from the tech side, and this is the data from Microsoft worldwide, not Thailand specifically. I don't remember the number of Thailand, but it's pretty much likewise the same. So we are looking for like 100 million jobs for the digital side. Today, if you go ask even Khun Joerg or Khun Chun, I'm sure that, do you have enough data scientists in your organization? Do you have the cloud architect in your organization? You have the PM, the project manager enough in your organization? It's very hard. So do you have enough coder, programmer? No. So we see a huge opportunity on the tech side that people could upskill and reskill. And this is the great opportunity. The reason because the technology now is so advanced. Let me give you some example. In Microsoft, we have one sort of application called Power Application, Power App, which is a part of the Microsoft Office 365, and people, most of them don't know, and they don't have to pay for that. This is already in there, right? Like Microsoft Teams, joking aside, before the COVID-19, we try to encourage all the people to use Microsoft Teams. Nobody used. It's just only 10% of the base customer that using Microsoft Teams. After COVID-19, 10 times higher. This is the same to the Power Application. It's part of that package. What Power App is doing is a low-code, no-code application, meaning that the business user can leverage these tools to develop the mobile application, web application, something very simple by themselves. No need to study about Visual Basic, Python, C, and stuff like that, because it's a low-code, no-code. If you know how to drag and drop and come to Microsoft class for one day, you can do it. So this is the advantage of the technology that allow the user, which is again is a great asset in every company. Because if you're asking that IT people like myself or my team or whoever in the IT to solve the business problem, we don't know how. We know how to use the tools, but we don't have these sort of the problem statement. The person who know that problem statement, how to reprocess it, how to automate those processes, is a business user. And this is a great chance for us in Thailand to see whether that how we can upskill and reskill those people to be able to sort of using their business knowledge plus with the technology, then they can develop so many things and originates so many things. I'm sorry for the long talk, but I'm so passionate with this topic that this is where I feel that it's a great opportunity for the COVID-19 that all the people could upskill and reskill.
Okay. Maybe just to cap off this one, I'll just ask for quick opinions from all the three of you. Is Thai workforce prepared to deal with the new normal of COVID-19? Yes, maybe or no, versus other ASEAN countries. Short answer will suffice.
I think that's just add up คุณ Joerg and คุณ เต้ย นะฮะ not only upskill, reskill. I think that we need to think about change skill. Because of the world from now, I think that the skill that we have it, not things, right? And right now, just to talk for our workforce, I got a lot of questions from the foreign investors. Because of since I started roadshow about the EEC, our government said that we turn to the high technology, 12 cluster, something like this. The most question asked about the workforce. How can we pair this thing? And for about the EEC forecast, for the next 5 years, the workforce in this 12 cluster need is around 476,000 employees. So your job have a lot of things. So but what it can be for the technology something like this. It is for we need to prepare our workforce, and also when we talk with in our industry, client something, they also prepare to do this thing too. Because of when the COVID happened, something like this, support that your factory infected only one. You need to shut down on your factory or not something. So we talk a lot about the social distancing, blah, 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 something. And so it's time for user strategy to do their operation something. Use a little robotics, use AI, IoT, something, AI for increase their efficiency, leave their cost, something like this. So I think it's quite interesting to think about this thing.
Okay, sorry, is that a yes or no?
I think yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
I think it's a very hard question to say yes or no. I'm typically a half full glass half full kind of person, and I think the glass is half full. So there are a lot of greatly skilled and great individuals who contribute. At the same time, the glass is also half empty, and I think there are a lot of opportunities for people in work places and jobs that we've just heard about. In IT, if you want to hire strong IT individuals, the pay scale you have to pay is higher than in many other countries in the world, because there's just such a huge shortage of these people. And those of them who are good, they open their own company and become highly successful. So I think there is a large agenda ahead of us to help make the glass more than half full.
Okay, so maybe in your case. And Khun Dhanawat, I guess
thanks
you're
for the
positive,
question.
right?
And please don't expect me to answer yes and no. No, just kidding.
We're all good corporate trained.
So the thing here is I think it's a huge opportunity, as both Pichun and Kun Joerg just mentioned. In Microsoft specifically, we believe in the growth mindset. That if we believe that the people could apply the growth mindset, like Kun Joerg just said, half glass full, to the learning. If you could imagine when we was young, which is long time ago, by the way. So this is a long time ago. So when we was young, who gonna know that I'm gonna come work for Microsoft? And this is an example that we have to believe that people have the capability to learn. Not that you label them, that this person is very good with accounting. They could be the financial advisor. This person is good with marketing, but they also could be the digital marketing expertise. So we have to have that belief, and the people have the capability to learn. So if this is happening from the top of organization, it will help drive those organizations to upskill and reskill. Without that direction from the top executive, it's gonna be hard, because all the sort of, I'm sorry, not mention about new or old generation. If they're saying that this guy is good on this thing, then he's going to be useless with the new reimagine of your business, right? So my point here is I still believe that people have the capability of learning. I still believe that today is the best opportunity for all the people to leverage the technology and learn the technology. Because if you see that all the industry, you have health tech, you have travel tech, you have all the tech, it is unavoidable that not leveraging that technology in whatever you do. So making sure that take this opportunity to apply for yourself.
Okay. I'm gonna pull us back to the COVID-19 impact a little bit more. So, one of the things that has been somewhat controversial about COVID-19 is this balance, finding a balance between resiliency and efficiency when it comes to logistics, global logistics. And certainly technology has made things more efficient, but then everyone has to be careful about factories shutting down and how do you manage your supply chain. So the problem is that Thailand is quite dependent on offshoring, especially with the trade war benefiting us so much. Are we seeing a reverse of this trend where instead of offshoring, companies are now reshoring just to make sure that if a country locks down, they're not caught in a lurch? Khun Jareeporn, maybe you can shed light on whether we're seeing a reshoring trend from your customers, or everyone is still happy to offshore?
I think that's for about this thing. Our clients also think about how to pass about this COVID-19 situation, right? Even the onshore office or something, right? But right now, the problem that we face is about lockdown the country, right? So meaning that's it is just the time passed. Just only when we pass the COVID, everything could become up like the same as before. So right now, we need to think about, we still lock down like this, or we need to do all more or that this thing.
Are the customers in your industrial estates, are they still staying on and they're not moving back? Is that?
Yeah, sure. Since mainly our industrial estate, I think that we have a lot of the mainly is like automotive something, right? Okay, the automotive is most affected by the demands over the world, right? But they of course temporarily shut down temporarily, so around 1 or 2 months something. But now they recover everything. And also for the others, like for the petrochem, for the power business is still good, okay, it's quite okay. And now it's starting, but we have another new demands from the other country that would like to move in. But the problem is just only a lockdown country like this. But I think the time support us when we try lockdown something, everything should be better than this thing. So our industrial estate is still okay. Our grants should be normally it's a big corporate. It not affect much about from the COVID-19. Short effect.
Okay, and maybe just to follow up on that, you have assets in Vietnam as well as Thailand, and Vietnam was obviously being close to China has always been a more preferred outsourcing for China, which is one of your main primary customers. Since COVID-19, has there been more demand for Vietnam than Thailand, or it's been the same?
As I said, there's relocation from China, mainly in the Southeast Asia, 2 countries, Vietnam and Thailand.
So no difference.
It difference is up to about the industry sectors. Support that you need about lower labor cost. A lot of laborers you need to move to Vietnam, right? And since we also have the industrial estate in Vietnam, and we just saw the MOU with the big corporate that do about the low end electronics. They need around 50,000 workers. In Thailand, we cannot provide something like this. But for if you need the good infrastructure, you need to come to Thailand. Or even though the skilled laborers, we also complain that we also need to upskill, reskill our people. But compared with in this regional, our workers is I think that's the best skilled labor in this regional. But I always say that the best skill not enough. They need to move to knowledgeable. That's on the process that we need to share. And I think that the government know about this thing. That we discussed, that we saw in the newspaper. 30 for the Japanese government support their Japanese company to relocate from China. And for the newspaper, you saw that 30 corporate from Japan moved to Vietnam, 15 moved to come to Thailand, only 5 corporate. But if you look in the detail, all about the corporate is not big company something to Vietnam. Altogether, we compare together 15 corporate and 5 corporate that move in Thailand. About the equity, I think that's maybe this why better or higher value than this one. So when we look in the detail, we need to think about that thing. Not only how about but how many companies something, right? So I think that for the Thailand still have a lot of opportunity for relocation. That's why I said that. How about the old Thai corporate need to prepare themselves to first reach like about the big player or something, right? Not only like your nowadays competitors anymore, right? You like the magnet to attract all the investor, and especially for the Chinese corporate. For the Chinese and Japanese, it's not same, right? A lot about the competitive, aggressive something. Need to think about that thing.
Okay. Maybe I can move on to another topic that I wanted to ask. And I think we've kind of touched on this during the discussions, but because everything is happening so quickly, decision cycle has to happen quickly. And the recovery for each country is asymmetric. So some countries still in lockdown, some countries have come out of lockdown like us, and some countries going back to lockdown again, like some countries in Europe. How, from marketing standpoint, from selling your product standpoint, how do you deal with that? And maybe I'll ask Joerg first, seeing that you sell your products on a worldwide basis. How do you adapt to this asymmetric recovery and resurgence?
So we have a very strong innovation pipeline that our country organizations can draw on and decide what they want to launch in their markets, what NPD fits, and what do they want to have at what innovation cycle. And this pipeline is continuously refilled, so that cycle continues. We do not see any impact on that. What we do see is that the COVID crisis has led consumers to go back to basic needs, basic staples, things they know. So we sell a lot more standard products than complex new products. The whole innovation focus of consumers has reduced. The whole willingness and openness of retailers to try and test and bring on new things is not as strong as it used to be. So I think what we do see is there's overall a little bit of a slowdown of innovation cycles on the consumer front. Now, how do you manage that if in one market we're opening up and people are actually in demand and they want to see new things? Well, that's why we have an innovation pipeline that is independent of the individual markets, and where markets and our sales teams can draw on as and when they need it. So in a country like Thailand, where we're through this, we're now coming with a lot of new products, a lot of new ideas. The whole online channel is exploding. We have a lot of new ideas. In a market like the United States, we still focus on staple products, our core product portfolio. So I think it's really on the markets and our own agility to adapt to the specific needs. It also is an indication that central control is good in some areas, and in some areas where it's more about consumer preferences, central control may not be as good. So I think as a corporation, you need to find a good balance in your decision-making process and be customer and consumer focus in consumer-facing activities, and you can have central control in other things like finance, like supply chain, where this is not as relevant.
And maybe this is a question for Khun Dhanawat to follow up. Can technology help with this very difficult asymmetric market environment, maybe let's say you could be looking at marketing team could be looking at Google mobility report for each country, seeing that hey, everyone's going back into lockdown mode again. Let's switch to ambient food, and then hey, now we're back. Everyone is heading to restaurants again. Let's switch to frozen. Is that something that's going to be a trend going forward? Everyone's going to be hooked up to all of these real-time data, and then just-in-time kind of marketing, as opposed to just-in-time inventory. Is that?
All right, thank you very much for the question. I think the key here is and this is always one of the big sort of value proposition when you are talking about the digital transformation. It is all about the agility. So right now, with the COVID-19 situation, so the thing is I would say most or all of the company need to sense it. And once you sense, what is your capability to respond? So the agility will come in to be able to sort of helping them to respond to quite a different requirement. In the case that Kun Joerg just shared, is it a different geography, different country, also different profile of the requirement of the demand. So, and that agility has been, leveraging a lot of technology, right? We are talking about cloud computing. So maybe just a bit of the cloud computing in case that the audience may not sort of familiar with the word cloud computing. But the cloud computing is like a computing power. It's like utility, put it this way. So today when you are using electricity, you never ask that where it's come from, right? The cloud computing is the same thing. It's a computing power that you can tap on. Today, if any organization have the credit card, you can go to, let's say, Microsoft Azure or any other cloud provider that you like, and using that, and you get the computing power immediately. What it gives is the agility in response. So the speed that you can respond, and not only that, it is on the financial aspect as well. Because if you have to go with the traditional IT, you may need to have, you have to buy, let's say, hardware, software implemented, and it would take months, by the way, and put a lot of CapEx. Especially now, the market is so uncertain. Many projects not guarantee that it's going to be 100% return on investment. So why don't you gonna put in a lot of CapEx in there? Cloud computing will come in to answer that, to provide the agility to all organizations to do. So my suggestion to all the companies and enterprise, take a look on this technology and see that how they can tap on and benefit on not only the agility, financial, and also innovation. Because there is a lot of innovation on top of that, right? So that's his first. The second is on the data side. So how we could making sure that we could sort of monetize those data that many organizations sit on it, and some organization has been open for many, many years, a lot of data. So how they could leverage those data to be able to serve the customer better, or even tapping on the data outside to making sure that you provide the speed, customer experience to all those customers that you have. So I think the net here is I feel that the agility is very important because if you sense and you cannot respond, it's going to be very hard.
Thank you. So we have a bit of time left, so let's pull back the questions a bit and go on to the policymaker level, because we want to go big picture here. There's been a lot of money injected by the government to help companies with COVID-19 and people. About 15 trillion supposedly, or as of the crisis happened. Has the government done enough, or is there more that they can do? Is injecting money the only thing that's needed, or do we need them to be more proactive? Maybe Kun Jareeporn, maybe you can give us some opinions on this. What's your wish list from the government?
Sensitive topic, right? Okay. For my point of view, I think that's the light that the government spend money, right? Because of when we have the problems for the economic like this, they get me to spending, right? But the spending nowadays just only for like the what we call is เยียวยา something like about it's not stimulate the economic right now. So that's why I think, okay, you only spend the money, give to the workforce, give to the people who lost their job something. But I don't think that our people lost their job more than 30 million like this. Because at first, if you remember, for the first about 1,500 baht a month, so it's 40 million. Like now increased to 30 million something. Do you think that? I think that's okay, that's numbers. So I think that the government need to think about how can we use about the money to stimulate the economic. Or you have any about their criteria, any privilege to introduce or attract the others. Like the most important thing I always said that for the foreign direct investment, right? They no need to use any budget from the get only 1 baht. But they need to have about the package or anything more to proactive to introduce or attract the foreign direct investment to the country. They can done many things like support that we say this. I say that we are still in the radars of the relocations, but the problem is it's locked down the country because of right now we're very proud that we have the 0 case for how many days, 80 days something, right? But we need to think about maybe you need to do about the business bubble. It's not like quarantine 14 days, right? For now, like about the foreign something, support that for the foreign, they would like to come to our country, maybe for their work something. Okay, the 14 days, that's okay. But for the investor that will do the business here, or maybe see something, no need to, I don't think that they need 14 quarantine days something. Why not we do the business bubble like about set up the center? And the center, okay, you can have their, like about the one-stop service. Support that they think interesting about the EEC something, right? You have the EEC one-stop service. And I saw the plan for the EEC, they would like to have this one-stop service. But I'm not sure what it's like now, situation right now. And all the BOI, all the other, that department something that can provide their information. And when they're done, just 2 or 3 days something, they can come back, go back to the country. I think that the most important thing I would like the government to do should be the business bubble. It's not throwing bubble. This is for like about can have the foreign direct investment and they can increase about the GDP and for the long term.
Joerg, do you have a wish list for the government? It could be any government, doesn't have to be Thailand.
I guess my first request would be to be less populist. Of course, it's great to give someone who's jobless or who lost his job support, and we have to give the support. Some of the discussions, however, are very populist-driven and not driven to help people who really need it. We need to focus on who needs the support. I guess the second part is economic stimulation. In the end, when we spend taxpayers' money, it should lead to an economic stimulation. And that is not just a short-term effect, but it should be a long-term effect. And I guess my last 2 points would focus around regulation. I think governments, the regulator, needs to think about how does this digital transformation, how does working from home affect regulations that we have to simplify to make it easier for companies, for individuals to go about their business in a much more digital and a much more agile way. My last point, and look, we discussed this at the beginning, I'm really afraid that there is a very large group of small, medium-sized enterprises who are the biggest losers of this whole crisis. Everyone supports the large corporates. Everyone will support the homeless and the jobless and those who lost their employ. Who is focusing on providing capital, tangible capital, to small, medium-sized enterprises who are at the risk of going out of business and who need that stimulation and who need that bridge funding to survive another 6 months, another 12 months. This is where I would wish there's more discussion and more focus around how to help small, medium-sized enterprises.
Kun Dhanawat, you have an opinion on the...
Thank you, Kap. In fact, this is, I was saying that it's going to be my personal opinion on this side. I think first, I really appreciate, especially in the responding time, when the crisis that's happening, or COVID-19 situation, that the government step up and also provide the funding to so many people in different segments. I think that is very helpful because everybody locked down, they don't have the money to even eat or living their life. So I think that is the credit to that. And also in terms of, the Ministry of Health, Call, I'm not sure in English, I'm sorry about that. But they have done such an excellent job to have us sitting here. And as Pichun just mentioned, over 80 days already that we have the 0 cases. So really appreciate. So, but the thing, what next, right? So the responding we have done well. We are in the phase, some organization, or is under the recovering. And now some organization, and most of them are in the phase of the reimagine. So I think this is a great opportunity for the government to start to reimagine what next, right? So the discussion that we have earlier on the company side, that we see that the digital could help, empower, to help transform, and so many things. So the country also the same. So if we take this opportunity to sort of put in the plan as a digital strategy for Thailand, so how we could leapfrog Thailand to another level. And I think by talking to this topic, it could take an hour, right? So that is touching so many things, right? From the startup, from the organization, from the individual. But that is something that we have to seize this opportunity to really reimagine Thailand for that. Another last point that I like to make, and in fact, I did mention it in the previous answer, is on the skilling. I feel that this is a great opportunity for Thailand to really looking for the digital skilling. So how we can leverage the technology to upskill, reskill, and making sure that those organizations like WHA, Thai Union Food, getting stronger and be able to represent Thailand in the world market. So same to the SME, how we could leverage those digital skills to help them, right? Because they normally SME, they are very fast and very agile. So how we can making them like being a part of the whole ecosystem, tapping on the technologies, and how we can making sure that the individual being equipped with the digital skill and the capability, and to sort of, not losing job, but gaining even better pay. As Kun Joerg just mentioned today, he paid a lot on the IT guy, but not me, I'm the cheap one. So this is where I think that if we could take this opportunity to reimagine Thailand, looking from the strategy point, looking from leveraging the learning that we have from Call, who leverage a lot of data to present to us. So, and that is something that not by us, because the data is a factual, right? Tapping on those learning, apply to all those, the rest of the ministry. Then that could be another new Thailand. Skilling, this is the last thing that I mentioned. Yeah.
Just one question. Do you think for our ministry, digital, the ICT, understand your point of view?
Definitely. So they are trying very hard to give the credit to them as well, given that they are coming out with a lot of policy and in terms of, let's say, cyber security attack to prevent that, data privacy, as well as a lot of funding to support this digital skill, and also the startup. I think, yeah, but again, it's not enough. Just only the Ministry of Digital, put it that way. So to really achieve this, we have to do together. Like if you're looking at the case of the Ministry of Health, to guard us from the coronavirus or COVID-19. It's not only about Ministry of Health. It's the collaboration of so many department, ministry, and people to make it happen. Same here. So to digitize Thailand or reimagine Thailand, it got to be the collaboration of all parties.
Okay, well, we only have a minute and a half left, but there's been no Q&A, so we must have done a great job of shedding light on this new normal. But maybe I'll just wrap up. It seems to me like, well, first of all, we need to reframe the COVID-19 is a black swan event. It just triggers the technological revolution, which is going to happen anyway, but it's just shortened the window. And it seems like we need to reimagine everything from ground up. The labor force needs to upscale. The government needs to rethink the regulations. Companies need to rethink how they can attract themselves to foreign investors, bringing them in this kind of environment. Logistics needs to change. So it's like a wholesale change. But it seems to me that the most important change may have to come from the ground up, which is the labor force, that they need to adapt and survive or will be made redundant. So I think that's pretty much wraps up the discussion. Appreciate all of you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you ครับ ขอบคุณครับ ขอบคุณครับ ขอบคุณครับ